talkradio.nyc.
Your boy's back. Philanthropy in focus. That's right, with a PH, as you know by now. I mean, listen, I took a little. I went away last week. We did a bit of the rerun, which I don't like to do. I like to be here every single Friday morning, but I wasn't in the attic, gang. So I figured we'd rerun one back for you. But that is very, very rare we do that. But all right, we are back. We are live. I am in the attic. I am 2 flights above where I get my coffee from. That is just below the roof of the house. I'm in my attic. This is episode 220 something, maybe five, I think. But who's counting? I guess I am. Susan Samaru, good morning. How are you, my friend?
Good morning, Tommy. I'm doing well. How
Are
are
you
you?
excited?
Oh, yes.
You've
I'm
been looking forward to this. You're fired up. You're pumped, right?
yes, absolutely.
All right, all right. Susan and I are going to get into it. The name of the organization we're going to be talking about is the Mor Foundation. We'll be talking about that shortly. But some people say, Tommy D, what does a nonprofit sector connector do? Well, here's how it works. Yesterday, I went to see my friend Carol Berkowitz and my friend Marcos Maldonado at Panates out on Long Island, which has four different shelters, homeless shelters. Then I went out to see my buddy in Bayshore, Pronto, Keith Scott, who's the executive director, CEO, who's been on the program here over at Pronto, which is a social service organization also in Bayshore here on Long Island, followed up by an incredible meeting. Not that the first two weren't incredible, they were, but another incredible meeting with my friend Jennifer Hernandez over at ECLI Vibes, which is just a great, what a cool space they have out there here on the island in Suffolk County. I visited with Jennifer, some of her team, just such a great vibe. They were all about vibes in that spot. I mean, from their pantry that her sister Danielle really tricked out with the colors and everything like that. And it's just so welcoming. And it's an organization that serves people who have been both adults and children who have been affected by domestic violence and tragic sexual violence and things like that. And it's so important that it's a welcoming environment for these individuals. And Jennifer, thank you and Danielle, what a good what fun people to hang out with. Thank you for the tour yesterday. That was super cool. Followed up by I go out to Airport Plaza in Farmingdale here on Long Island to visit with my friend Lynn Vaccaro O'Leary, who is opening the first ever AABR space out here on Long Island in Farmingdale. AABR, it's one of those traditional 70-year-old organizations serving individuals with intellectual developmental disabilities. I got to walk the space. I got to see like the paint swatches on the wall. This is going to be so special. They're going to have a little bit of, I like to say namaste in the attic, right? But they're going to have a little bit of a Zen room namaste. I had a friend of mine, my cousin, in fact, was out there because she does yoga classes for individuals, certainly focused on adults with intellectual developmental disabilities. And she does all yoga classes for that matter. Anyway, shout out to my cousin. That's what a nonprofit sector connector does. Then shows up the next morning wearing a hat from Special Sweets. Shout out. I tell folks, you don't always have to give me gifts, but I will wear them if you give them to me. And shout out to KCS, Korean Community Services of New York, very important organization in Bayside, Queens. They actually have an event coming up September 20th. I will be there. Community event on a Saturday. Anyway, that's what it's like when you're the nonprofit sector connector. I guess if somebody was called like the financial services connector or the hedge fund connector, the day in a life might look a little different. But my folks, the people I hang out with, are impacting lives, saving lives in many cases, and changing lives every single day. And that makes me feel good. So selfishly, I hang out with people that make me feel good. So shame on you, Tommy D. How dare you? And we continue to go into this talking about organizations that are impacting, saving, changing lives. Susan, this organization has been doing this for 30 years, right?
Yes, And
So
Tommy, you just kind of made my head spin with all of what you just said. I don't know how you keep all that straight. Yes, we have. It's a very special year for us. The Mor Foundation is celebrating its 30th anniversary, which, you think about dating back to 1995. That's when we were founded by Dr. Virginia Moore.
yeah.
She is a pioneer in her field of breast surgery. She actually only retired a couple of years ago. She was a phenomenal breast surgeon well, at the time it was Winthrop, now it's NYU Langone.
Hmm.
And she's certainly done so much for women in the medical field and specifically in the field of breast health. And she had the foresight back 30 years ago to know that she needed to do something about breast cancer and about awareness.
Hmm.
And you think about, okay, how did the Moore Foundation all get started?
Yeah.
And she was one when she was seeing her patients in her visiting rooms and sharing with them knowledge and information about breast cancer. So many of them would tell her that I wish I had known this information beforehand, because at that point they were deer in headlights,
Yeah.
and you know
Meaning, let me just stop you a second. Meaning, like she's engaging with them as they're receiving this diagnosis that nobody wants to hear, right? You're saying that folks would have loved to have some education about caring about themselves and being aware of things earlier on before they had any diagnosis so they could react or respond and do different things. Is that what you're saying?
That's correct. That's exactly right. And think about 30 years ago, people didn't talk about breast cancer back then.
Right, right.
It was really kind of a taboo subject. You kept it a secret.
Yeah.
It was shameful. And it was also more of a death sentence. It's like, oh my God, you have breast cancer, like
Yeah.
you're going to die.
Yeah.
So she then started to educate their family members because those are the people helping to take care of you. And, it's just information overload when you're being told that you have breast cancer.
Hmm.
So she realized, I need to start getting this information out to more people. And it's so important to educate people at a younger age
Yeah.
before they get to this point,
Yeah.
for them to have the understanding and the awareness, what is breast cancer?
Yeah.
And that's how she started the foundation, because this started to get a little bit out of control for her to just manage it in her waiting room.
Sure. Yeah,
So
she needed to create another entity that could do this work, which we're going to get into. But Susan, what's most important as starting the show is I want to know who Susan Samaru is and how you get here to this Mora Foundation and how you get. I mean, you're coming up on like 12 years, is that right? Or is it more than
that's correct.
12
That's
years?
correct.
So, I mean, so you're having a bit of your own anniversary, but I want to go back and I want to understand your story because as I look, you spent some time over at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Long Island. I know the organization for a long time. Um, how and you were there for a long time, many years, in
Yeah.
fact, right? Like
Yeah.
almost almost 24 years, 23 years.
Yeah, 23 years.
So
You know,
how did that happen? Like, how do you get like why are you in the nonprofit space? How did you get to Big Brothers? And then how do you get to the Mora Foundation? Let's go there for a bit. I promise we're going to get
sure.
into education and programs and key points to know about Mora Foundation, the Mora Foundation, and things that are coming up. But I want to know who you are.
Sure. So, I was raised in Queens and I went to NYU, and I actually thought I was going to major in math.
Hmm.
And after taking some very high level math courses and calculus classes, I remember sitting in my classroom and thinking, what am I going to do with this?
Yeah,
When things got so kind of like out there,
yeah,
when it was like,
complicated.
how am I going to apply any of this? And then I took a psychology class and I thought, wow, I really enjoy this.
Hmm.
And I thought, I really think I want to work more directly with people in some way, shape, or form, because this is what I enjoy doing. And I, right out of college, a couple of weeks after graduating NYU, I started working at Big Brothers Big Sisters.
Really? So that was your first gig. All right, I want to go to that story, but because of my beautiful brain and how it works and goes in different ways, when I hear the Q Borough, when I hear Queens mentioned, I gotta get to something. Shout out to the Queens Chamber of Commerce. In fact, I have LinkedIn pulled up on one of the monitors, and I see there's a picture of you and my very good friend Brendan Levy. And is that Roe Sylvan on that picture? I think it is.
Yeah.
There's a bunch of this is out of Queen and a guy with a handsome guy with a bow tie on. That's not me. I don't wear bow ties. I barely wear ties anymore. Here's the question. Queens girl, Queens woman, growing up, right? There's a baseball team that plays in Queens. Is that your team? We need to know here. People need to know.
The
Don't
Yankees are my team.
you can't do this. I can't believe I saw you put your head down. You cannot come from Queens and become a Yankee fan. I mean, you can. People do it, and I completely disagree with it. It's inappropriate.
Listen, let me tell you. So the story behind that, I came to this country when I was 9 years old.
Okay.
Did never heard anything about baseball, did
Where,
not
where, what
understand the
country?
sport.
Where before you came here?
From Guyana,
From
South
Guyana.
America.
So okay, so you go to Queens because you got Little Guyana and Queens. I know the neighborhoods, right? So all right, so you
So I know cricket.
you know
The ball
yeah,
is on the ground.
yes.
My uncle took us to our first baseball game, which was a Yankee game. And I thought this was the craziest sport that the ball goes in the air and then you hit it out there and it goes into certain areas and it's no longer good,
Yeah.
if it's a foul ball.
Why
There's
everything's
such
in is
thing.
that I don't know cricket. Is everything in play? Like,
Everything's in play.
oh
So it was very strange to understand but I thought it was amazing. Had
yeah.
my first hot dog and thought it was the best thing I had ever eaten. So this is, a little kid at 9 years old. That was my introduction to
Your first
baseball.
experience, you are up there in the mecca of baseball. I understand it. Up there in Yankee Stadium, the old Yankee Stadium. Not to date ourselves, but it had to be the old Yankee Stadium if you were
Of
nine.
course.
And the really the again, as a Met fan, I just like to hear these stories because look, now we know. Now we know you're a Yankee fan, and now I know if I get Yankee tickets, I will not go with you, but I'll give them to you.
But hey, I'm not a Met hater.
No,
I
I
am a
and I
true
appreciate
New
it.
Yorker.
Yeah,
So
no,
I
and I love that. I love that. But again, it's those certain things that happen as a kid. I have a funny story one day, not on the show now because we don't have time, but about how my son and my mother-in-law my mother-in-law is a Yankee fan and she was gonna try and get my older of my two sons to be a Yankee fan. That did not happen. We took care of that promptly and swiftly. But anyway, that's a whole nother story. But she thought it was kind of cute and fun to do that. So, oh, we're gonna make, Tommy D's kid be a Yankee fan. Well, that didn't happen. Anyway, when I hear Queens, I think about that stuff. So shout out, by the way, I mentioned the Queens Chamber of Commerce. I see some of the work you're doing there. So you come out of school, you change your focus, I guess, from math to psychology. I mean, I'm looking on LinkedIn. You have your bachelor's degree from NYU in psychology. So you made the shift. One quick anecdote. I used to go to Baruch in New York City.
Mhm.
And I didn't go often enough, which is why I didn't graduate from there. But I realized I was a finance major, and I realized I did graduate with my degree in finance from SUNY Old Westbury. Shout out SUNY Old Westbury for sure. Shout out SUNY. Shout out CUNY. But I realized you cannot miss calculus for like 6 weeks in a row and then show back up for the class. That's not actually a thing you can do. Some classes you could pull a move like that off. That is not one of them. So gang, show up for those if you're going to take them. But you made this pivot. You decided psychology was the way to go. We're going to go to a break in a moment. But before we do that, your first gig is to go to Big Brothers Big Sisters of Long Island. How did you make that decision and what was the role you were taking on there?
This was back in the day when job ads were in Newsday. And now I'm really dating
No,
myself.
me too. We're together in this one, man. It's all good.
So I sent in my resume. I love the idea of working in schools, and it was to be a case manager for the school mentoring programs.
Wow.
So submitted my resume, got interviewed, and I was hired. And then I ended up staying there for 23 years
Real.
and wore I don't know how many hats while I was there, from case manager to program coordinator to program director to ultimately to chief operating officer before
Yeah.
I.
Yeah, I mean, did you and Mark Cox, were you there at the same time?
For a short period of
For sure.
time.
Yeah, yeah,
Yes, yes.
yeah. So shout out to Mark and the team. Shout out to Meredith over there on the development side, and Mark Cox, the CEO, has been on the program. I hope you're well, Mark. It's been a minute. Should catch up soon. So you get there to that organization. I want to hear all about that experience of working with the young people. To stay anywhere for 23 years right now is like a different world. I mean,
Absolutely.
the young bucks, I would say they'd be like screeching off the road, pulling their car over, but they're probably in the back of an Uber, so they're not driving their own car anyway. But I'm just kidding, everybody. I'm just joking. But I think that because 23 years, that's like, wow, that's like old school, right?
Yeah,
So we're going to
absolutely.
hear, I want to go when we come back, we'll go to break. We come back, I want to hear that journey, what that was like, the work you did. And obviously, we'll transition that into when you did decide to make a move and come over to the Mor Foundation and what drew you to this work and what you have been doing for the last 12 years in this role. So you're super loyal from a employer perspective. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I dig that. I dig that.
Yeah, and you don't see it. Again, I don't want to offend any of the young folks out there, but you don't see that too often anymore. There's a lot of movement.
Yeah, yeah, it's very different. It's a different world for sure. So I love that. We'll get into all these stories. I'm glad you're here. Susan is my guest. The organization is the Mor Foundation. I am the one and only nonprofit sector connector. Right back. Philanthropy and focus.
Are you a conscious co creator? Are you on a quest to raise your vibration and your consciousness? I'm Sam Leibowitz, your conscious consultant, and on my show, The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, we will touch upon all these topics and more. Listen live at our new time on Thursdays at 12 noon Eastern Time. That's The Conscious Consultant Hour Awakening Humanity, Thursdays 12 noon on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a high-achieving, growth-oriented leader? Are you interested in developing your authentic leadership while creating a healthy, inclusive workplace? Hi, I'm Dr. Mira Broncu, host of The Hard Skills on talkradio.nyc at 5 p.m. Eastern on Tuesdays, where we discuss how leaders develop the hard skills needed to make a greater impact. We interview experts, have live coaching, and tackle these challenges. Listen to The Hard Skills on Tuesday at 5 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Are you a purpose-driven individual looking for deeper healing, clarity, and growth? Welcome to the Expansion Room, a transformative space for purpose-driven individuals. I'm Siobhan Larice, host, licensed therapist, and coach. Join me every Wednesday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC. Uplift, educate, empower.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
So a couple weeks ago, everybody, a couple weeks ago, I'm on a meeting for the nonprofit committee for the Queens Chamber of Commerce. And my guest, who's here with me, Susan Samaru, was in that meeting or on that meeting, I guess is a better way to say. Like I say, we're not in Long Island. I don't live in Long Island. I live on Long Island. Anyway, she was on the Zoom meeting with me. And I was like, so I told the story. So the song that you just heard, Nonprofits Need Connections, Moving Right Directions, that is not me singing. And I know you probably all want me to sing it. And text me, I'll sing it to you later. But that is my friend. You just made a face like, I don't think I really want him to sing it. I caught that? Did you make it like, maybe he shouldn't sing it? I'm calling you out.
Hey, you don't want me to sing it.
All
That's
right,
for
fair enough. Oh, I
sure.
don't want you to sing. All right, well, so that is my friend Brendan Levy. I call him Uncle Brendan Levy, and I found out that you did call him because I said you're gonna get a call from a bunch of people that you're now Uncle Brendan Levy, and so that is my friend VP of business development at the Queens Chamber of Commerce, Brendan Levy, who we wrote the song together. He's the singer in the song, and that's how life is all intertwined and interconnected, right, Susan? So we happened to be on that meeting.
Absolutely.
You're like, he's got a band and this whole thing. I actually was away last week and they played last Saturday night out here in Long Island, and that's kind of what we were talking about, you and me, right? Like that we're gonna. I don't know if you were able to go out and see the band, see
I
you did?
did, and
Get out of
he's
here.
the real deal.
They rock.
It was
Yeah.
really, they
Oh,
were amazing. I brought my husband,
I-
my friends.
isn't it
We had an
fun?
awesome time.
So they were at Docs. That's right. I remember that's how it all, I didn't know you got to go. So that's good we're doing this now because you know, they're incredible. They used to be called The Goods back in the day, everybody. So Google them, the 1990s, Google The Goods, the band, Brendan Levy, the whole thing, Leavy. And now they're called Damaged Goods because they're old men and they're not as, they don't move around as good as they did in the past. But he rocks, right? They do a great show.
He was just incredible. I really, the first song that, and I told my friends, hey guys, I don't know how
I don't
this
know
is
what
gonna
we're in
be. Let's
for,
just,
right?
because here he is, in a suit and tie all the time whenever I see him. I wasn't sure what to expect. He gets up there and he has a great voice,
Yeah.
and the entire band, the sound was so good,
I
and
love that you
everybody
went.
was dancing. It was
Yeah.
great.
I love it. And I love like see, I know the two sides of Brendan for many, many years. So it's interesting to hear it like through your experience to say, like, oh man, I don't know what we're in for, man. Like I know he's a suit. This guy's a suit. I don't know what he's gonna do at the microphone. No, he's great. They're great. They play like once a quarter, everybody at Docks over in Island Park. So I'll keep you up to date on all that, gang. Because if you are close to the island, you should come out and check it out. I'm so happy you went. That's good. We'll talk about that later on. We gotta get back to we gotta do show, Tommy D. We're not just having coffee, even though that's what I tell people this show actually is. So all right, so you get this opportunity. I wrote down schools. That was like one of your first things, like to engage with the young
Yes.
people in schools. What did that look like, and why was that so important to you?
I growing up, growing up in Queens, it wasn't easy being an immigrant family coming into this country, and I found that just my middle school age, school years, my high school years, they were formative years, and I feel like that it was so important to have just have a solid experience there. And I really enjoyed that experience. And thinking about what I wanted to do for the rest of my life,
Yeah.
I saw this opportunity to help to make a difference for young people. And I thought this could be great. And the whole mentoring concept of pairing older people with younger people and helping to guide them through their life experiences was awesome. And there was a high school program that Big Brothers Big Sisters had, and that's specifically what I was working with.
That's awesome.
And to see that impact of people having mentors in their lives at a young age and how that can help steer them in the right direction was pretty phenomenal.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. Like even this morning before we came on, I had a call with a friend of mine who runs a nonprofit out of outside of Pennsylvania, well, excuse me, outside of Philly called Siloam Wellness. And I spoke to another friend of mine who runs an organization here on Long Island that's involved in the boxing community and supporting gyms, local boxing gyms and things like that. So it's a very how do I say it? I'm involved with many different parts of the nonprofit sector, and like to hear you tell that story. There's so many opportunities in the sector for people to come work in and do this work. If
Absolutely.
and I'm seeing these years ago as a young person, right, coming right out of college. So your first gig, so you're not so far away at 22, 21, 23 years old, whatever, in age, so far away from the people that are being impacted. And you have this great story and lineage, and you could see how they were benefiting. That's the whole thing. That's what this show is. That's what this sector is. It's about storytelling. And that's why I hope people have this vision and understand, like by hearing these types of conversations, I go, I'd love to do that. I'd love to go
Yeah.
do that. Like that's great work, and I think more and more we find in our sector, not as Mor Foundation, I said little play on words, but more and more as we find in our sector, there's so many opportunities for jobs and so many people are needed in the sector, and even let's just really quick, do you have openings right now at the Mor Foundation?
We actually have the opportunity for a part-time bilingual educator. And it's what we're finding, and we're kind of going to move into that.
Yeah, yeah.
I'll stay with what we're talking about. But yes, there
Yeah,
is an
there are
opportunity
opportunities. So
for,
we'll get, yeah.
yes.
So we'll get into that shortly. All right. So you as you work your way through the organization, can you tell me a couple of anecdote stories that have all these years stayed with you about your early experiences or your later experiences with Big Brothers Big Sisters of Long Island that are part of, will always be part of the tapestry of the Susan Samaru story.
There were so many stories when I was at Big Brothers Big Sisters of the impact, and I think the best stories are the ones where there were several instances of little brothers and little sisters that as they got older, they became mentors themselves. They became big brothers and big sisters. And because I was there for such a long time, I was able to see that growth
Yeah.
with some of these individuals, and to be able to see those young kids become mentors themselves. And because they knew firsthand how important it was, because, the worst thing is for someone to sign on to be a mentor and then not follow through with their commitment.
Yeah.
And that was always the biggest challenge, was to recruit, especially big brothers,
Yeah,
because
I've always heard that. They've always, and my friend Bert Lurch, love Bert Lurch, very good friend of mine, sits on the board of directors there. I mentioned Mark Cox and mentioned Meredith, and they always seem to have the challenge to have big brothers, bigs men specifically, right? In your experience, and that was always kind of,
that was always the case,
yeah,
because it's usually it's single parent families, where moms are looking for mentors
right,
for their sons.
right,
That's quite often the case, unfortunately.
yeah,
And there is, we say it, and there's always a shortage of men
yeah,
that are ready, willing, and able
yeah,
to make that commitment. So yeah,
yeah.
there's this imbalance.
Yeah, and it's so to hear that whole that arc of somebody was served by the organization as a little and then comes back. I mean, God, what's better than that? Like that's the whole thing. Like that's it. That's the
Absolutely.
right, the ripple effect, the paying it forward of all that where now the organization and the young people are all better off. But let's be honest here. I talk about, my little sneaky trick about nonprofit volunteer work is it is so fulfilling for the person doing the work. So gang, of course there's commitment and air quotes sacrifice and some selflessness of being a mentor. But you got to tell me, Susan, so many people get so much out of being a mentor, not I mean, my words are messed up here. There's so much benefit in doing that work, not just
Absolutely.
on the little, but for the big, right? Talk to me about
Yes,
that.
the self-fulfillment is really really incredible. And so many times that we have said thank you to the volunteers, and they'll turn around and say,
Oh, thank you.
no, thank you.
Yeah,
I'm doing this because of the I walk away at the end of the night and at the end of the day, and I feel like, wow, I have really made a difference. And sometimes you have people that are in the corporate world and are making a difference in the jobs that they do, but not feeling like they're making a difference in society
yeah,
and leaving their footprint, so to speak, and this is a way that you can do that.
yeah. I think that's so important. And gang, go to if this is something that again, this show is not just it's about well, it's not about Big Brothers Big Sisters so much, but again, I am the nonprofit sector connector. So go to let me get the website for them real quick so folks can go. If you want to be a big or if you have a child who could use that mentorship, go to bbbsli.org, bbbsli.org, Big Brothers Big Sisters li.org. Maybe I'll share it during the break. But when we come back from the break, we are getting right into what the Mor Foundation is all about. Back to Dr. Mor, Dr. Virginia Mor, and the story and things like that, and why the organization was created, the important work that Susan and her team are involved with every day. And, the 30th anniversary is coming up, but also the month of October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month each year, right? This is Go Pink. We see it with the NFL. We see it with a lot. I mean, I think even MLB does some stuff, I think, too, with like,
Yes.
yeah, right. I see my son, the baseball son, he wears like pink arm sleeves and stuff like that. So we'll get into all that. So Susan, a lot to cover, a lot to get into. Thanks again for being here, gang. We're going to be right back. I'm going to take a quick break right now. Show's Philanthropy and Focus. When we come back, we're going to be talking about the Mor Foundation and the impact. Right back.
Misalignment within your sales team or with the client stalls deals and creates unnecessary friction for you and the client, resulting in up to 37% lower win rate. If you're in pre-sales, sales management, or sales enablement, and you'd like to increase revenues, win rate, margins, client satisfaction, and stay competitive, this show is for you. Hi, I'm Art Fromm, host of the Making Seamless Sales Show. Please join me live Thursdays at 7 p.m. Eastern on talkradio.nyc.
Hey everybody, it's Tommy D, the nonprofit sector connector, coming at you from my attic. Each week here on talkradio.nyc, I host the program Philanthropy and Focus. Nonprofits impact us each and every day, and it's my focus to help them amplify their message and tell their story. Listen each week at 10 a.m. Eastern Standard Time until 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, right here on talkradio.nyc.
Hi, I'm Linda Marsanico. The A Train to Sedona is a memoir about my journey to love and compassion. It's also the name of my new broadcast on Wednesdays at 12 noon. When we are spiritual, we embrace possibilities and ideas, which strengthen our mind, body, spirit, health, and wisdom. On the A Train to Sedona broadcast, I plan to interview guests who embrace these expansive practices. Join us on Wednesdays at 12 noon on Talk Radio New York City.
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
You know, it's funny. Susan said, Tommy, I can't even keep up with all the things you were just saying, like all the things you do, all the things you did this week. And that was only like one day yesterday. But like, that's the static that we're trying to cut through. So cut through all the static. My guest is Susan Samaru, the executive director of the Mor Foundation, 35 years of nonprofit leadership, and has guided this organization since 2014. So we're going to get into all that. Look, 1 in 8 women in the U.S. will be diagnosed with breast cancer in their lifetime. It says here, don't become a statistic, reduce your chances of being diagnosed by educating yourself. This is on the website, gang, which is Mor Foundation, but I'm going to spell that out for you. MAURER Foundation.org, MAURER Foundation.org. Since 1995, the organization has reached 525,000 plus students to educate them in high school, college, as well as parents, coworkers, and neighbors. Again, it's all about education, right? It's key. Education is key. Awareness is key. Let's talk about that. Susan, welcome back. We went to commercial, so welcome back. So tell me about this.
Not everyone's gonna know that reference, you know.
Welcome back, little welcome. Not everybody's gonna know. Welcome back, Cotter. Just you and me, Mr. Katar. Yes, I love it. I watched that in reruns, gang. So did Susan. We're younger than that. We're not from what do they call the Sweat Hogs? Shout out to Gabe Kaplan, the whole thing. Still, not Stallone, Travolta, the whole deal. Anyway, what is he talking about? Google it. Welcome back, Cotter. All right, so Susan, you have this great track record, this great work you did over at Big Brothers Big Sisters of Long Island. You're at the top level, you're the COO, and what happens?
So, after I was being there for 23 years, I had been feeling the itch for a couple of years to do something different. And I thought, you know what, either I make a move then or I just stay there for the rest of my career. And at the time, the chair of the board of directors of the Mor Foundation, who was also on the had been on the board of directors of Big Brothers Big Sisters, knew that I was looking for something different. And this job was open. And he said to me, you know what? We have a great opening that I think you'd be a great fit for. So I thought, okay, let me hear about it. And that's just how I met with Dr. Moore. We clicked right away. And she's, one who is still very involved with the organization. And I thought, you know what, I'm ready for a new challenge. And at the time, the organization was going through some challenges financially, back in 2007, 2008. The organization was heavily funded by the financial. Uh, why am I losing my words here? You
Oh,
know,
well, there was a crisis. We had the financial crisis, so were they
yes,
supported by
yes,
financial services or yeah.
yes.
Yeah, well, that was a tough time in the country. 08, 09, the mortgage meltdown, all that stuff. So it was affected, the organization was affected by that, some of that.
Yes, absolutely. There was a great deal of funding that came through that sector.
Mhm.
So after that, there were several years of the negative impact that had on the organization. So saw this as a challenge to, okay, let me see if I can help to kind of right the ship here. And after meeting with, the powers that be over here, I felt like, wow, there is such a passion for the mission of the organization, but the people that are involved, the board of directors, they're all involved because of a direct link to breast cancer
Yeah.
and to Dr. Moore, and I heard over and over again, Dr. Moore saved my life. She saved my mom's life. What better commitment to a cause than to have been impacted in that way.
Yeah. Yeah.
So,
Yeah. And you find that also is a driver of support. When I say that, I mean dollars, support of the organization because of that connection to the experience, the work, and the impact it's had on their families translates to that level of support in a lot of ways.
absolutely, and people are not coming to support this organization because they want to see their name in print or
Right.
they want to get the recognition for it. They're coming here because of a true commitment to what we do and the impact that we have on our local communities.
Mm.
And if you rewind the clock to 30 years ago, when Dr. Moore first started doing this, that's how she got people on board. It was the people that were directly impacted. And then I heard about, as to hearing the mission and the impact that the organization has, it definitely resonated with me. I have not, luckily, knock wood, I have not been directly impacted by breast cancer, but who doesn't know someone that has been impacted?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I thought, you know what, if I can help to make a small difference in those numbers, I jumped right in. And here I am 12 years
Yeah.
later.
So you came in as the executive director,
That's
right?
correct.
So you built up all this experience and knowledge and things like that through the ranks from your quote unquote first job, your first gig at right out of college. So you had seen so much of the mechanics and the running of a nonprofit organization. So you had the experience and you were ready to roll at this new organization.
Absolutely. And as a small nonprofit, you end up wearing many hats. And I'm
Oh,
sure
boy.
you've seen this from your experience. You're doing
Yeah.
HR, you're doing marketing, you're doing the hiring process, you're doing trainings, you're doing fundraising, you are the networking person,
Yeah.
you're
Yeah.
you're juggling all of it. But I think at the heart of it is being able to talk to people and being able to relate to people and coming back to that psychology background that I have and
Yeah.
just, being able to engage, I think is key in
Yeah.
everything that we do.
Yeah, and I think a lot of that is what we do on the show. I don't even know if I've said it yet today, but we help nonprofits tell their story and amplify their message. And that's what, to me, a lot of it is storytelling, right? It's how do we get people to
Absolutely.
commit to our organization? And I was speaking to somebody earlier today just about storytelling. It's about getting people, you talk about engagement, you talk about communication, you talk about psychology. that's the human experience, right? That's just connections. And the way you get to this organization, this role was through networking. You said there was this link between
Yes.
someone who sat on the board of both organizations, and that's how you got there. Some people might not call that networking, but it is. It's
It
it's
absolutely is.
relationship building, it's connections, it's staying in touch, it's developing strong relationships. I mean, listen, man, you and I are going to talk next week because I'm writing notes about some connections I have for you. But like even our agency, Vanguard Benefits, our employee benefits agency, I mean, we talk a lot about wellness. We talk a lot about education. I mean, we sell and service group health insurance. And I only bring that up to say I was meeting with my partner earlier this week, and I said, I'm having Susan Samaru on the show, and I want to talk to her about opportunities to educate our groups about being aware of what breast cancer is. Again, we sell health insurance, right? It's like totally on brand for what you do,
Absolutely.
right? So to a lesser extent, some of my other nonprofit friends, it would be like, well, why are we doing a webinar about that? No, what you guys do, which we're going to get into now, is all about what we do from an education perspective. So let's talk about kind of a day in the life of what you and your team are doing out there as it relates to community engagement and education.
So the crux of our program, it's really educating young people, going into high schools, going into their health classes, and teaching them about breast health, teaching them how to do a proper breast self-exam. So we know young people don't get mammograms, and unfortunately, more and more young people are being diagnosed with breast cancer. And if they're not getting mammograms, they're not finding something, if something suspicious is there, we bring in silicone breast models that are embedded with lumps, and each participant gets to practice on and find out what a suspicious lump feels like. And I don't know how if you can see
I don't
this,
know. Show me.
but
Yeah.
this is a breast model that we bring in, and it's made of silicone. It's silicone in there, so it
Right.
has the texture of a real breast.
Yeah.
We teach you how to actually do that breast exam, and there are lumps in here, different types
Right.
of lumps. Some of them sharper, some of them softer. But it's reflective of what different types of lumps might be there that shouldn't be there.
Yeah.
And if you feel something, then you need to make sure you get it checked out by a doctor.
Yeah.
And we actually had just a few years ago, we had a high school student at Massapequa High School who, after our program, and this happens quite often, everybody goes home and does their own breast exam. Like, okay, let me
Yeah.
try that and see what
Which
she
is what we
felt.
want, which is what
Exactly.
want to have happen, right? That's the best outcome, right? That they go home and they check to see, because that's what you're trying to do is
Absolutely. So she did exactly what we had hoped. She felt something. She went to Dr. Moore. Dr. Moore checked her out. She was actually fine. There was nothing there, thank goodness. However, a couple of years later, she felt something on her neck, and she said to me, that I learned from your program that how to be aware of my body and what might not be, what shouldn't be there. And I also learned that if something didn't seem right, I needed to be my own advocate. She
wow.
went to two different doctors that dismissed her this lump in her throat and saying that you're perfectly healthy, don't worry about it, you're fine. And she said, I knew I wasn't fine. And it was the third doctor that said to her, this is not fine. She had cancer in her throat, and they were able to take care of it and get it out. She's now in her mid-20s, and she's a teacher, and thank goodness she is healthy. And she says if it wasn't for our program, she wouldn't have learned that skill set. She wouldn't have had that knowledge, and she wouldn't have pushed. As a high school student, especially, if a doctor's telling you you're fine, she would have just left it alone.
So here's what I got to say, everybody. Be vigilant, be ever vigilant. I wrote down, be my own advocate. That's what you're doing. I mean, when and I'm not going to be dramatic here, but when I say organizations like this are saving people's lives, I'm not being dramatic. Literally, that young person that you're referring to, had she not sought out, she had two doctors tell her you're all set, and she still pushed, right? Now,
Yeah.
which, many people are going to look at the white coats and go, well, no, I guess I'm okay because they said I'm okay. She was vigilant and advocated for herself, and now she's healthy, and now, of course, I'm sure of it, she's educating other people on that type of experience. And as a teacher, depending on what grade level she's at, she's probably paying that forward. So shout out to you. We're not going to mention your name, but when and if you see this, thank you. I'm grateful for what you're doing in the world, certainly being an educator on the front lines with our young people. But being an advocate, we must. And I'm thinking about this. My wife and I have 4 children. And I'm saying in my mind, I'm going, and you and I can talk about this offline next week, but I'm like, are you in my district? Are you already out here? Are you doing this? I have, as of next week, I'll have 2 high schoolers, and it's
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah. So it's like, where are we,
Yeah.
so I
And,
want to talk to
and
you. Yeah,
and
please.
we're in 87% of school districts on Long Island.
87%?
7%.
That's awesome.
Yes.
Congrats. That,
Yes. And going back when Dr. Moore started this organization, she reached about 1,000 people in the first year. Last year alone, we reached about 30,000 people.
that's great.
And, and now over 525,000 total since
Yeah.
inception. And you just talked about paying it forward. And that's a great segue to, another little story that I wanted to share. It's, when I was at Big Brothers Big Sisters, you saw that more direct impact. You're seeing a big brother and a little brother, a big sister, and that engagement, that direct work that's happening there. At the Mor Foundation, we're on the prevention side and doing the education. Sometimes you're not always seeing, okay, we go into a classroom, we do our presentation, and we step out. And that also makes us very different from other breast cancer organizations there are a lot of good breast cancer organizations out there. Many are focused on research or working with families that are impacted by breast cancer. We are very unique in that we are doing education and we are trying to connect with those people before they're diagnosed beforehand and hopefully helping them to find a lump at its earliest stages when we know it's most treatable. A couple of years ago, well, this is going back actually quite a few years ago, we did a program at Cold Spring Harbor High School, and the student there, we talked about dense breast tissue and the fact that when mammograms are done, if you have dense breast tissue, it's harder to see if there's a lump or something there. It's harder to see because that natural lumpiness, that natural density can sometimes block that view. So usually what's supposed to happen is if you have dense breast tissue, you go in for your mammogram, you're supposed to get a letter stating that you need to do supplemental tests. So this young lady went home and she said to her mom, look, I learned at the Mor Foundation that if you get this letter, you need to go and get supplemental tests. Also, if you feel something, you need to get it checked out. I mean, we drill that home to every
That's a big,
student.
they're not, yeah. So that's a big part. So these young people going home, and maybe they're not scared, but they're aware, right? They're going home going, I need to realize the importance of what this is. Like you stay focused on that. Yeah.
Yes. So having this conversation with her mom, her mom said to her, I felt something the other day. I was leaning on the bed trying to get the remote control, and I felt something, but I thought I must have lain on the remote control, and that's what I was feeling. And I just ignored it. And her daughter insisted that she get this checked out. Like my other example, she went to the doc. She called the doctor and she said, I'm not sure what this is. The doctor said, you had a mammogram a couple months ago. It was fine. You don't need to worry about it. She persisted. And after just really a lot of persistence and advocating for yourself, she had stage 3 breast cancer. Yes, the mom. And because of her daughter's pushing, she was able to find this lump. What is even more ironic is 2 years ago, the honoree for our Pink Diamond Gala, which is coming up in October.
We're going to talk about it.
um,
Yep.
he became our honoree because he said, my wife is a breast cancer survivor, and there's a direct link here. I was having dinner with them, sharing a little bit more about the program, and his wife said, the way I found my lump was because my daughter came home and really encouraged me because of a program she had. Lo and behold, that was our program, and
Wow.
she did not know this, and it all just kind of came together there.
Full circle, they say. Full circle. I mean,
Yeah.
look, I I'm so excited that you're here today because we're leaning in. It is the end of August. I used to not love this time of year because it was like going back to school, and I didn't realize how beautiful autumn is here on Long Island. Because I used to go like, oh, I don't like the fall. I don't like autumn. I love autumn. I love the fall. So we're going to be talking about what's coming up for the organization. What's obviously October, I mentioned, Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and all the pink that we're going to see. I mean, let me just put this out there. I'm shouting out Korean Community Service Organization because they gave me this blue hoodie. If there is a pink hoodie that says Mor Foundation with Tommy D's name on it somewhere in the office, I am ready to rock a pink hoodie. Real men wear pink, certainly in October. And but speaking of men, before we go to break, which we are going to do, and then we're going to talk about what's upcoming. We'll talk about October. We'll talk about your gala, all this stuff. I looked up the statistics. 1 in 726, if the stats that I found are right, 1 in 700, 1 in 726 men will develop breast cancer. So again, it is certainly less than the 1 in 8 that of women, but it is still something that we as men have to be mindful of as well. And there's a man I met recently who was like a Long Island, he won an award, and he's a restaurateur here in Long Island, and he's out as somebody who is a survivor of breast cancer, this man. So it's a real thing. Maybe we could talk a little bit about that when we come back. And then we're going to get into what's upcoming. Who do you need to connect with? And then also, you mentioned, since it came up before, there is an open job rec for a bilingual educator or something. So we'll get into that. How's that sound?
Perfect.
Are you having fun, Susan?
I'm having a great time.
Okay, good. All right, good. I always have to check in with my guests. I'm Tommy D. We will be right back.
On Frank About Health, we're not just talking healthcare. We're managing disruption and innovation. Over the last 4 years, I've taken you from epilepsy and COVID to mental health, caregiving, and now the front lines of healthcare transformation. Stay tuned for a healthier future as we bring on the innovators, professionals, storytellers, and advocates who show you how to own your healthcare every Thursday at 5 p.m. Eastern Time on talkradio.nyc.
Ready to serve up success with a splash? Hi, I'm Bruce Kramer, a.k.a. the Corporate Cockroach.
I'm the Renaissance woman, Angie Snowball.
And I'm your strategy doctor, Dr. Navtej Desange, inviting you to serving up success with a splash.
Join us as we shake things up with real talk and real strategies centered around awareness, action, and accountability.
And yes, there really is a cocktail involved. Please join us and sip your way to success.
Serving up success with a splash, where wisdom meets happy hours. Cheers!
Cheers!
You're listening to Talk Radio NYC at www.talkradio.nyc. Now broadcasting 24 hours a day.
Nonprofits need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all the static. Join Tommy in his attic.
All right. You're already here. You join me in the attic, everybody. All right. So here's the thing. Funny things happen to me. One time I had a guest on my show. Her name is Kimberly Kay. She's with McBride Consulting. She's incredible. She does grant writing and different things for nonprofits. And I said, I found something in her bio at the last moment, and it was about that she is the lead singer in a band. And I asked her like something towards the end of the show, and then I got invited to go see her. She was performing for the new album in New York City. Long story short, I just found something in your bio What is the Eastern Motor Racing Association? What is that, my dear? And then we'll get into what else we have to talk about. But what is that?
My husband and my son are both car racers, and I have found myself as on the board of directors. I'm the treasurer, and I'm also the track day in charge of track day operations at our tracks at Pocono Raceway. At so I do all the announcements.
Come on. What, like Riverhead too, or what?
We don't do Riverhead.
Okay.
It's longer tracks.
Where, okay, first of all, hang out in the Poconos a bit. Second of all, I need to be like with you, like, I don't know, in the booth or whatever. I need either your son or your husband to drive me around the track. Whole other story. You and I carved out time next Wednesday to talk about some other things, so we will talk. But see, that's the thing. You never know what people are into, man. People, that's why you should have not been shocked when I told you Brendan Levy is a singer in a band, because you're on the board of directors for the Eastern Motor Racing Association. Who knew? We'll get into that next week, but let's get into this now. What's upcoming for this organization? How can we help?
Okay, so in October is Breast Cancer Awareness Month, and we find that everybody thinks that breast cancer happens in October. It does not just happen in October, but that's the month that we find that a lot of people want to support our organization, want to help us out. There are a number of places that will do events on our behalf. They'll raise funds, get the awareness out there. We provide them with information that they can share with their constituents. They raise money and give it to the foundation, which is phenomenal. And it's a great way for us to get our name out to of people that are not our regulars, so to speak. We have a number of car dealerships that will do a test drive during the month of October. And for every test drive, they'll give us $10. At the end of the month, they give us a nice check. They pink out.
If you have your husband and son involved with those test drives, you could probably make more money because they probably drive really fast. Like I'm talking really fast. And if they drive fast, you can make $10 in 5 minutes instead of 12 minutes or 18 minutes.
I don't think those dealerships would appreciate that, though. So, and from that to just smaller, even if it's beauty salons that are doing a pink out day and doing raffle baskets and things like that and giving us the proceeds, it's great. We have our biggest event of the year, our Pink Diamond Gala, which is October 17th. It's at Russo's on the Bay. And there you are. We are honoring Tommy Reynolds from Reynolds Consulting. It's a wonderful event. It's not, people think of galas, they think of a lot of speeches. We have a short program and it's a party. We have a phenomenal band and the food there is terrific. So it's a great way to support our cause. We also, during the course of the year, we don't charge for our programs. It is free. So to keep our programs free to 30,000 people every year, we do need to do fundraising throughout the year. We have a motorcycle ride in June. We have a bowling event in February, and we also have a golf event in May. So we're reaching all different demographics, all different price points, all different ways to be able to get people to support our cause. And for those of you who might want to participate in the gala, you can go to pinkdiamondgala.org.
It's got its own website just for the gala?
Own pinkdiamondgala.org. And it'll take you straight to that page that you just pulled up.
Got it.
So anybody can really.
First of all, Pink Diamond is beautiful. I would think more people would want, instead of just a regular old clear diamond, people would want a pink diamond. I'm just saying.
Yeah, it has a nice sound to it.
Yeah, it's beautiful too. So shout out to Tommy Reynolds. Shout out to the volunteer team, because I don't know Tommy Reynolds, but shout out, he's got a good name. At least first name, I really dig it. And then you see, I look on the website, I see all the information about the people who are on the committee. Shout out to all those people who are on that committee for the event, because I always shout out my volunteers. Every event I go to, I'm thanking the people at the check-in desk. Like, who is this guy? Why is he thanking me? Because volunteers are so important and integral to our organizations. And
absolutely, we would not be able to do the work we do without that. And it's really that committee. Thank you for mentioning them, but that's who is making this happen.
Yeah.
You know, I couldn't do this alone. I couldn't do this with just our small staff that we have. It's all the many hands, as they say, many hands make light work.
Yeah.
And these events are what's going to help us to continue to keep our program free and to be able to reach as many people. You mentioned the Queens Chamber of Commerce, you know, because we're in a place where we've reached 87% of school districts on Long Island, we actually have extended our focus into Queens. We've become members of the Chamber of Commerce. They've been phenomenal in helping us to connect with schools in Queens, being that I'm a Queens native, well, you know, that I was raised in Queens.
Yes.
It's really particularly important to me, you know, really resonates with me that we're able to bring our programs to those young people.
Yeah.
And I expect that we're going to be able to make a lot of headway this school year, which is, you know, next week.
Next week it is. Don't tell the kids. The kids don't want to hear it, but it is next week.
It is next week, yes. So I'm very excited. I'm pleased with the receptivity that we've had in Queens, and it's very exciting for us to be able to expand our reach.
Well, you and I are going to do a lot more expanding of reach and connections and relationships. We do have to leave it there because that is the end of the program. That's how fast an hour goes. We packed in things. We're talking about racing cars. You know, we're talking about big brothers, big sisters, and we're talking about the Maurer Foundation, the important work. Go to Maurer, MAURER foundation.org. Really quick, there was a role you have open, an educator, a bilingual educator, right? They could find that on the website. Who should they contact to connect with the organization more, Susan? What's the best way to keep in touch?
They can go to morfoundation.org, sign up for our newsletter. And if you go to our website, you'll see all the different ways that you can connect with us.
Oh, there
morfoundation.org, MAURER foundation.org.
And I am the nonprofit sector connector. This has been another In Focus production. Make it a great day. Thanks, everybody. See you next week.
Thank you, Tommy.
Need connections to move in good directions. So cut through all